Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is kind of a special little mini series I'm doing as far as leading up to the game next week on Turkey Day between Ansonia and Naugatuck. I'm trying to talk to players from both sides as far as players who played in the past, obviously the ones in the present. Still working on a couple things with that as far as multiple players, but I do have a former player who was on this podcast in the past when it first started, coincidentally enough, when COVID became a thing, and that was a whole nother story. Malachi Gaddison's with me, graduated from Naugatuck in 2020. My guy, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again as well.
I'm happy to see that you're doing well. Obviously, your family's doing well, everyone's healthy and all that. That's awesome to be able to hear that and what you've been able to do. But I have you on here, and you and I could talk forever about your years at Naugatuck because it's funny because towards the end of your years with Naugy is when I started with the radio station. So I kind of saw a little bit of it. Being able to have you on here, I kind of want to just ask you some questions as far as the Ansonia Naugatuck rivalry. The one coming up next week is the 124th meeting between the two teams. You were part of some of the 116, 17, 18, 19 ones and such. What
Mhm.
does the rivalry mean to Naugatuck? Like, just take me into that, please, from a player's perspective.
Honestly, I could say it's like the high school Super Bowl in a way. Like it honestly means a lot. It's like one of the biggest things you look forward to within the season. Despite like the playoffs and everything like that. You look forward to the rivalry because it brings everyone in the town together, as well as like the school. The school is really like you have the pep rallies, you have everything getting into it. The cheerleaders. So it's just a way that it's a way that like intoxicates you, and that's why like right before the game you get those butterflies and it's over after that.
When you were kind of playing in the games, right, most recently as you continuously moved up the ranks, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, etc. I mean, did they ever go away? I mean, the atmosphere. I know your final year, obviously, there was a lot of injuries that happened, so maybe the crowd wasn't as lively. But the years
Mhm.
I remember with Plasky, a quarterback, I remember it was when I first started the radio station. I'd never seen so many people for one game ever, and it was a rowdy bunch in a good way. So kind of just take me into that too, if you could.
Yeah, so my first ever year playing against Ansonia for Nagy was my sophomore year, playing with Salazzo and Mike Plasky was the quarterback.
Mhm.
That's when Markel Dobbs, I believe, was the running back. So
Yep.
like that was our main task was trying to stop him. We tried our best. I was making plays where I could. I was a little injured too. I had a little like whatever it's called, like when you hit people too hard so your shoulder go out. So I was doing a little bit too hard hitting. But that those games like that one I had butterflies in absolutely because I didn't know what to expect. I'm young. I'm going against like all these seniors. This guy's like as all like they all state. You know what I mean? So I'm like I gotta really like show up. So
Mhm.
like I try to make a statement then. And then junior year, honestly, like it was just more so the nerves for everyone else.
Mhm.
I didn't have any nerves per se because I was more focused on like because I knew I had more confidence in my play at that point, and
Mhm.
I knew what I could do, when I got to the game, and I knew I was going to make a name for myself. So it was more so that like I can encourage my teammates to
Mhm.
like have that same type of confidence and all that type of stuff. But like that year, we had so many different types of characters and stuff like that on the team, and so many different types of athletes. It really didn't even matter. So like that year, we actually competed, and that was one of the best games I've ever played in my life, honestly. So like even just looking back on it now, I still get like goosebumps and stuff like that because like I never stepped off the field on that game. So
Yeah.
like just remembering every single play and remembering the emotions that went into it, even
Mhm.
just after the game, even seeing like just the highs and lows because we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And
Mhm.
like I feel like that's what people look for in the Ansonia game. Even though like there's times where Ansonia just tears it up, or like there's been times, Naugatuck is very competitive.
Mhm.
But there's always that when you can get a really good Naugatuck and Sony game, it's one of the best high school football games you can ever find in Connecticut. You know what I mean?
It's crazy to think. I mean, the tradition of Ansonia, they've won over, I think, 860, 70 something games. I have it written down upstairs. Obviously, the meeting 124. This will be, I think, the 21st NVL title between the two. And I
Hmm.
think Ansonia leads the series as far as for an NVL title, 11-9. So, again, a
Yeah.
lot of history with that. Obviously, Ansonia leads the series, But again, like you said, Naugatuck has had some teams. I mean, over the last 3 years, Naugy's won 2 out of 3. If
Mhm.
Anderson is able to win 3 out of 4 against Ansonia, they may build a statue and elect him as president of Naugatuck. I mean, seriously.
Literally.
But I mean, looking at it from a player's perspective, as far as in school, or actually, no, before I get to that, going into a season, not to say you guys are looking up, ahead, right, when you were at Naugatuck, but was always like Naugatuck in the back of the minds for everybody?
Oh, like Ansonia wise?
Yeah, yeah, or yeah, and Sony, my apologies. Was
Yeah, you're
Ansonia
all
always in
good.
the back of the mind? Sorry, I got Naugy and Sony in the brain.
Yep. I would say for some, honestly, for me, because it was never in the back of my mind per se, because at the end of the day, they were just another team. And like when you like I was saying before, like talking before we had gotten on here,
Mhm.
Costa Lazo really put in a lot of IQ into the game. So like once you started really understanding the game, you realize they had so many indiscrepancies and that they actually weren't that good. You know what I mean? And like it was literally just like finding out how to stop the play. It was just that they literally perfected plays. It wasn't they had a couple plays and they ran those to perfection. And
Yeah.
that's what makes their team really good. And then on top of it, of course, they have athletes and they have good coaching and they have good discipline, you know? But when it came down to it, once you take that dimension out of the game, like you always see that whenever they go to the playoffs, like it,
Mm.
that like they usually end up stunted, unless they figure it out, you know. So like that was our goal junior year, and that's how we were able to stay competitive that one because like we were stopping the run. Eventually, towards the end of the game, we couldn't, you know. I guess fatigue came in. You know, it was really cold that game, one of the coldest ever.
Yeah.
So,
Remember that.
um, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, I
Got
remember
lost.
there was a big discussion about that. I remember about even playing the game because of how
Exactly.
cold it was. I remember that.
They were gonna move it at first, but then both the Ansonia's coach and Costa Lazo, both of them were like, nah, like our kids aren't our players are tough, you know what I mean? Like that's not what real football, Naughty football is about. And we're all like, yeah, like, but at the same time, like, come on, like we could just have a really good football game.
Yeah, I don't want to be hurting every time I'm tackling Dobbs or something.
See, but honestly, that one I think we're playing against what's his name? We were playing against Schuler and the running back I believe was Shamar something or something like that.
Shaquem Harmon. Shaquem
Hakeem
Harmon.
Harmon, there we go.
Yeah, I forgot about Schuler because he played basketball too.
That's actually my cousin.
Really?
Yeah, he's from New Haven.
Oh, no way. I'll tell him
hmm
I said hello. He probably has no
My
idea who
whole
I am, but
family's
tell him
in
I said
Sonia
hello.
bred. My whole family's in Sonia bred. Like, so I was supposed to play there. They were
It-
terrible. They literally hated me after every Thanksgiving I went to after the game. Like, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it.
that must have been awful.
Awful. And then I'm just bowing my head. I'm like, don't even look at me.
It's funny that you mentioned because again, through all the years, again, only 5, 6 years in as far as seeing the rivalry, but seeing Ansonia running backs, you go from a Shaquem Harmon, then you had McKnight in 21, then you
Mhm.
had Cassetti, and then it just goes down the line and just running backs left and right. It's crazy to see how every year there's always a back, right? This year it's Quintez Whittle, who,
Mhm.
I mean, and what he's done, especially now with the quarterback being out with a collarbone injury. Whittle is the main guy. But like you said,
Exactly.
it's crazy to think they can run the same 3 plays. You know it's gonna go to Whittle, or it could go to me. And because I got blocking up front, I'm gonna have so much lanes to go.
Exactly.
You're right. It's just one of those things where if you just, again, it's hard to say this, but if you just know your assignment and don't overcommit and control your side of the line, the scrimmage, you got a shot.
It's all about not being a hero. That was one of the biggest things like Costa Lazo always said when you play these really tough games where you're actually playing someone that's just as good as you, if not better. Like
Mhm.
you just play to your assignment and you get your job done with the most extra effort you could put in. You know what I mean? But you don't do more than what's responsible of you because then you're taking over somebody else's responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like at that point, like that's not trusting your teammate. You get what I mean? That he wouldn't be a starter next to you if he wasn't able to do that job.
Mhm.
So at that point, like that's where it really came into like trusting your teammate, and that's why I feel like that team during that time, like with Jaden Anderson, or Nick Arrow, Jay Mezzo, Isaiah, Jeff,
Mhm.
Irve, all of us, like having that connection that we had as a team because we played for so many years together. And then, training in the summers together like nonstop.
Mhm.
So,
Going through all that with the training and such, not to say that the goal, because obviously the goal was to win a state title, right?
mhm,
But was it also too, because it's almost like I've compared Ansonia and Naugatuck, I know obviously college to high school, but it kind of has
mhm.
the same vibe. I've
Yeah.
compared it to Michigan and Ohio State, the team up north, team
Yeah, that
down,
makes sense.
right? I feel like you never want to mention their name. It's just that we're playing the team in blue, right? Like
Literally.
you guys were training, were you thinking about that too? Like, we got to beat that team. We got to beat, like, take me into that, please.
I would say that I feel like for a lot of the players that like are literally like Naugatuck bred, like they were born in Naugatuck and have grew up through Naugatuck schools, and like their parents have a history here and everything. That's like in their soul. Like it's like you can feel it come off of them, and that ends up influencing all the other players around them. And like usually around that time, like Coach Lazo always had honorary captains and stuff like that too. So like those players would end up taking a step up because they can really like feed the energy that we need for this game. And then like when it came to like the other captains, it was just more so of having the experience of losing and knowing like damn well we should have never lost. Like
Yeah.
it was just literally like too much of this, too much of thinking, too much of getting in your head, too
Yeah.
much of like also like getting mad at coaches instead of like trying to figure out how we can help one another. It's always complaining. I feel like that's always been the issue instead of like finding a solution.
It's funny looking back at again, my memory is in so many different places with a lot of things, right? But that year with Plasky and how close you guys came your junior year, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I think about again, certain plays, couple things here and there. Naugatuck had a couple things when they lost in 22 that if they did not do that and they did a couple other things, they may be 3-0. Anderson may be 3-0 against Ansonia during his tenure. You think
Mhm.
about 21, they had the trick play when,
Mhm.
Jet Hall was the one that threw the ball, and I think it was the Bartel who made the catch. I could be wrong. I have to go back and look, but whoever was the wide receiver, that's how they won that game. Then in
Yes,
23, it was obviously Jet Hall who was Superman. He just dominated the game. But
exactly.
those kind of things, it's like to beat Ansonia, the formula of having just the best player is not always the thing. You kind of have to do something different every year against them.
Exactly. That's literally what it is. Because in Sonya, that's one of their big things is that they'll always have a good defense. You know what I mean? They're gonna stop you. So like that was one of the big things is that we have to be able to keep up with their offense. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's probably why offense for them is like simplistic in a way because they can make defense like their main focus in a way. But like an offense, like they make a feature back. You know what I mean? I've known this since I was young because of just being around Ansonia and growing up in Ansonia. You know what I mean? So like the feature back, and that's basically what Jet was with Naugatuck for that while was like the feature back. So
Mhm.
like having an athlete, having someone that you can rely on in big moments and stuff like that. And I feel like we had that in different moments, but we didn't have like coach didn't figure out who that guy was. You know what I mean? Or did he not trust who that guy was? I don't know what the situation was, but
Yeah.
we tried feeding the ball to everybody, and that doesn't really work in intense games like these. You have to really figure out what are the plays that can like get the defense to think differently and get out of their box and like they
Mhm.
mess up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think about the year in 2022 that had Caden Martin, Diedelbaum, and Jet Hall. Now Hall was still coming back from an injury, even because he got hurt in week one against GNH. But
Hmm.
still, three running backs, three very talented running backs, and Sonia did what Sonia typically does. They take out the best player. Now, obviously, Jet Hall was a different story. Hall could have, I mean, look what Hall did against Darien. He dominated a very good FCAC team, mind you.
Hmm.
But and Sonia against 99% of the league against other teams, one being Naugatuck, they'll take away your best player. It's like the Patriots. They force you to play with your other hand. And if you haven't done that much of the year, you're going to get exposed bad.
Exactly. And like that was the thing, like if teams would figure out how to throw against Ansonia, you would know that their actual like passing defense is mediocre compared to their running defense. They'll
Mm-hmm.
stop you because they're stout. That like it's all and they're mechanical with everything. They read things and they were taught how to pre-read before the play starts. You know what I mean? Pre-play reading. Like that was one of the biggest things I learned like as a linebacker playing for Naugatuck that helped me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it came to recruiting and being able to articulate all that. Like and Sonia's really good at that. And you notice that just playing running back because they'll start shifting over their eyes, they'll start looking. Like
Mm.
as a running back, you should be doing the same thing, pre-playing, looking at the linebackers, trying to figure out what they're gonna do. So like I feel like if this game becomes a very intellectual game, if Nagasek is really into this game,
Yeah.
like they could win. It's not hard. You know what I mean? It seems like people make it seem impossible sometimes, or like it seems like it's going to be such a hard task, or like a one of the worst challenges, or something like that. But it's really not. It's really just another game with another opponent that just so happens to be somebody that's just as competitive as you.
I think Anderson may have to give you a call and have you come down to talk to Jones, Ethan Jones, the quarterback, so you could tell him all of this.
Honestly, shoot, I showed them all the indiscrepancies they need to see. I know, shoot,
Because
I lived
I
out
don't
there.
I don't know if I don't know if as far as you talking to the your former teammates, but Williams, Isaiah Williams, I think cousin or brother Ethan is a
Mhm.
hard hitting kid. He
Oh,
hits hard.
oh.
He hits hard. He really does.
I'm trying to think who was the linebackers that used to hit hard for us, like Mike Nikhil.
Was
He's
it
nasty.
Jaden? I think Jaden hit pretty hard too, didn't he?
Jaden Anderson. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
He
his
hit he
it was
hit
I don't know his body, the way he was built. It was like a slingshot.
I was going to say it kind of like he yeah, like you said, like a slingshot. Let him go
Hmm.
and
Just
kill
pop,
him.
bam. Oh,
Yeah. And
I
then
love
obviously
playing defense with him. He's literally one of the best people to play defense with. I'm like being a middle linebacker and having an outside linebacker. Like
Mhm.
he was like for Ansonia game we were playing on that game. Like he was my side.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yep. So
Then
he's my
I mean
versatile
Hervey
linebacker.
too. Tish would
Yep, right in the
swallow.
middle.
I mean, again, and Sony had big boys, so Hervey could only swallow up two instead of three, but
Yeah.
he'd still take some people with him.
I'm about to say, and then plus on top of it, it's hard to move him. Like he's really, really, really strong. So
Yeah.
like, and then on top of it, he's a big boy himself. So within that, he just knew that if you can't move him, then you can't. Like their play is all about motion, being able to open up the lanes. So
Yeah.
like, if you're able to keep them stagnant, there's nowhere for that running back to go, and so they're gonna
Hmm.
have to go back the other way. And then that's where you have your weak side linebacker waiting there, ready to eat.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that was like kind of what our game plan was when we played them. It worked to a certain degree, but then once when people start getting fatigued, things happen. We need like you need depth when playing in these type of
Hmm.
games because you need rest.
And that's the one thing too I want to ask you before I let you go. The one thing that's hurt Naugatuck this year is that they have a hard time stopping the run, more so with the gap control and tackling in space. So
Okay.
if you were to go back and or not so go back, but if you were to go to Naugatuck High School and talk to the defense, go with Coach Maffo and talk to them, what would you say to those defensive guys? What would you say to them?
I would say that tackling in space, the pressure is what like kills the moment. The pressure of being able to make this tackle and you overthinking about it. It's honestly just you got to have a tunnel vision in that moment and think like there's no one next to you. Like no one next to them is like there's people next to them, I meant. So like say like if you're tackling right in the hole. So then you just focus right on the hips and the legs and you focus on getting that tackle. All the extra wiggling that's not going to do anything because at the end of the day all you need to do is get that shoelace. There's going to be a tackle. Um but one thing about me, I don't really like shoelace tackles, and neither did Coach Salazzo. That doesn't really show anything as a player. So get that head on that chest. You know what I mean? Um, and then when it comes to getting into the gaps and being able to read that, I would say it's always the guards. Like, and especially within high school football, it changes a little bit when you get to college. But your guards will tell you everything, especially within Sonia's plays, especially the tackles and tight ends. If the tight end if the tight end blocks down, they're usually running the ball. If he goes out, like it's automatic pass. They're running a play action. He never just goes straight ever like in any of their plays. So
Mm-hmm.
like they're running play action or any type of fake or screen or anything in that regard. But if he's down blocking, the tackle's down blocking, all that type of stuff, this play is coming this way, or they're doing some type of reverse on you. So just being prepared for anything in that. Um, and always remember to revert your eyes back to the backfield after you read the guards. So like if your guard pulls, like now you're looking back at the backfield to see where they're going to the left or they're going to the right. So then you're not faked out.
Malachi, words of wisdom. Dude, I could talk to you forever. I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun, man. Please stay in touch, all right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Boys, that wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. So next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Enjoy finding them all. Enjoy this day, everybody, and be well.